Christina Onnested. Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio and 3 other members of the far-right extremist group were convicted of seditious conspiracy by a jury Thursday for their role in the deadly January 6th Capitol attack in 2021. The charge carries up to 20 years in prison. The jury sided with prosecutors who argued the leaders of the self-styled chauvinist group plotted to attack the Capitol on January 6th to keep then-President Donald Trump in power after he lost the 2020 presidential election. It's the highest level prosecution to stem from the deadly Capitol siege. Jurors cleared a 5th defendant, Dominic Pizzola, of the sedition charge, though he was convicted of other serious felonies. Here's Attorney General Merrick Garland.
Today's verdict makes clear that the Justice Department will do everything in its power to defend the American people and American democracy. Over the past 2 years, the department has secured more than 600 convictions for a wide range of criminal conduct on January 6th, as well as in the days and weeks leading up to the attack. And now, after 3 trials, we have secured the convictions of leaders of both the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers for seditious conspiracy, specifically conspiring to oppose by force the lawful transfer of presidential power. Our work will continue.
Justice Department officials also garnered guilty verdicts for seditious conspiracy charges against the Oath Keepers founder and 4 other members of that extremist group for their role in the January 6th Capitol attack earlier this year in 2 separate trials. The owner of Russia's private mercenary Wagner Group military contractor says he will pull its troops out of Bakhmut, Ukraine, next week. It's the scene of fierce fighting between invading Russian forces and Ukrainian soldiers. He accused Russia's military of starving his forces of ammunition and rendering them unable to fight today. Yevgeny Prigozhin's comments were translated by Al Jazeera.
If you give us the normal amount of ammunition, there will be 5 times fewer dead soldiers. They came here as volunteers. They are dying so that you can gamble in your redwood cabinets. Take note of that.
He also claimed Wagner had planned to capture Bakhmut by May 9th. The day marks Russia's defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. He's previously made unverifiable claims and made threats he hasn't carried out. As a civil war in Sudan continues, putting relief aid in limbo and forcing tens of thousands to flee the country, U.S. President Joe Biden has signed an executive order setting the path to sanction the individuals involved. More than 500 people have been killed in the violence. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby.
This new executive order authorizes targeted sanctions that promote accountability for individuals that are responsible for threatening the peace, security, and stability of Sudan, undermining Sudan's democratic transition, and using violence against civilians or committing serious human rights abuses, among other things.
Fighting broke out between 2 military commanders who previously agreed to transition to democratic rule after staging a joint coup in the country. In the U.S. Senate, a showdown's underway over the nation's debt limit and a looming default anticipated by next month. The Senate Budget Committee considered a House Republican debt limit and budget bill Thursday that Democrats are calling the Default on America Act. Christopher Martinez has more.
Democrat Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island is chair of the committee.
An act cobbled together by House extremists in back rooms in the dark of night. Since the House didn't hold a single hearing on this extreme and dangerous measure, the Senate will.
The Republican bill, called the Limit, Save, Grow Act, passed the House on April 26th. It would lift the federal debt limit, avoiding a federal default, for about a year. In exchange, it would make about $4.5 trillion in budget cuts over a decade, as well as repealing some of President Joe Biden's signature legislative achievements, such as climate measures in the Inflation Reduction Act. White House does not see that as a fair trade.
Attempting to extract partisan policy concessions with threats to intentionally drive the American economy off a cliff is the very definition of extremism. Democrats haven't threatened default unless Congress also passes gun control legislation.
Chuck Grassley of Ohio is the ranking Republican on the committee.
The House Republicans' bill is meant to start a conversation. To start a conversation, not end it.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
Bernie Sanders joined labor leaders and minimum wage workers at the nation's capital Thursday to call for an increase of the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $17 an hour. He called it a disgrace the federal minimum wage hasn't increased in 16 years.
We need an economy in which all of our workers earn a living wage. It is not acceptable today that nearly 35 million American workers earn less than $17 an hour.
Sanders' proposal would increase the minimum wage to $17 an hour over the course of 5 years. Several major cities in the state of California have increased their minimum wages to at least $15 an hour. In an op-ed in the UK's Guardian, the independent Vermont senator also called for a reduction in the work week to 32 hours without a cut in people's pay. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.